Hey guys, this is Allison from Allykatkreations. How are you? Be the people. If you haven't done so already, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. And if you get anything from my work, a connected dot, a mind-blown moment, an epiphany, a mushroom cloud moment, a new book to read, a new author to explore, please consider supporting my work, and all the links will be in the description box below. Realms of the Living Dead. Because this book holds huge relevance in my life, personally. Nothing happened to me, but some very amazing things happened to a person I'm very close to. And this book had a lot of tidbits. So even though this book was written in like the 1900s, it's real. This holds true. A lot of this book holds true, even to today's standards in the paranormal community. So just take that into consideration, buffs. Chapter 18, the Telepathic Method. We want to say we can read our thoughts, but did you read what I have to say there? Quote, believe not every spirit, but try the spirits, whether they be of God, because many false prophets are gone into the world, end quote. 1 John. Quote, life and mind and consciousness do not belong to the material region. Whatever they are in themselves, they are manifestly something quite distinct from matter and energy, and yet they utilize the materials and dominate it, end quote. Raymond Lodge. To develop the telepathic method in the most advantageous way, first repeat some prayer or invocation, which will focus the Christ light in your aura, that it may fill and surround you and protect you from all forces which cannot vibrate to its light. Not just light, truth and purity, such prayers, for instance, as our prayer for light, the healing prayer, etc. Then picture to yourself the face of the loved one you desire to reach, and send that one a mental invitation to come and visit you, if at liberty to do so. Pause. Each and every day, if you resonate to do so, you should be bubbling and shielding your field constantly, at least twice a day, morning and night. This is absolutely truth, because you don't know when you're out in your world what you could pick up. There are things that we don't perceive and see that can latch onto you like a little parasite and suck your vitality out. And once it grows inside of you and you start doing some damning things, you can be oppressed, if not possessed. They like to take the energy out of you, feed on you. So for anybody who's interested, usually sit in meditation, focus on your heart space, a golden white light, getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and wrapping your entire body in that light. asking your guides, your angels, and source for protection. You could do the 12D shielding, which you take your Merkaba down through your chakras, down to the middle of earth, send it back up, send it all the way up into the universe. And each time, Ashana D wants to call it the Maharic shield. You could call it 12D shielding. From those Merkabas are going to be plates that are above and below your feet and your head. And then a plasma stream anchors your body. And then if you're advanced, you'll see your other modalities start happening. But for just a simplistic version of Vola that I just said, you can find those on YouTube with more detailed information, because you want to get all the colors of the chakras right. You want somebody to walk you through the Merkaba, like a pale silver color. Any of those things, but everybody visualizes and does things differently, but every day have the intention to protect your body. Before I move on, there's a good quote. Quote, there's a lot in prayer. Prayer keeps out evil things and keeps nice, clean conditions. Raymond says, keeps out devils. End quote, Raymond Lodge. Be careful, however, not to make a picture of the face as it appeared in sickness or in death. Neither should you hold a sorrowful or laborious attitude of mind in which you implore the loved ones to come to you because you are so sad and lonely. Instead, prepare a glad countenance and a feeling of joy, anticipation, such as you would feel when welcoming them home from a long journey. In short, think more of giving and entertaining than of receiving. For cheerful and happy thoughts of love make an atmosphere about you which attracts your friends, while selfish, sad, and depressing thoughts make a pall of fog about you, which prevents them from seeing you or coming near you. In the beginning, you may write a letter to the loved one, just as if he were here in the flesh. Explain just what you desire to accomplish. Then leave the letter open near your bed or under your pillow. When you retire, and the answer will be impressed upon you. When a presence is sensed or felt in any way, and you become aware of someone near you, the first thing is always to challenge the presence in the name of the Christ. Later on, by holding the determined thought of projecting power of the Christ and persistent through that which you will have nothing to do with anything that is not true, pure, and helpful. That's also extremely true. And this attitude of mind that it becomes a perpetual challenge. For the Christ within will make you intuitively aware of which is false. Anybody who is a medium, a channel, an empath, any of the above clairvoyants, always do the above. Always. Can't stress that enough. As we have said elsewhere, quote, the right hand is always a symbol of purity and the power of the right to prevail. It also refers to the positive pole, or that which is to manifest in expression, while the left hand is the negative or unmanifested pole. When the left hand is applied to manifested or earth conditions, it symbolizes a negative or evil aspect of the manifestation in question. Students whose inner faculties are unfolding and who are bringing to have psychic experience can easily protect themselves from unpleasant experiences and imposture by remembering this symbology. For no false or evil entity can take its stand upon your right hand in response to your command. The rule is first to determine that you will allow no entity or psychic experience come to you that does not come in love and purity for your best good. Make this determination so strong that it will impress even your subconscious mind, the mind of the animal self, so that your very attitude will be a protection in itself, just as similar attitude will protect you in the physical world. When you have a psychic experience which penetrates this protecting aura, always challenge it. Learn by heart these words and use them. In the name of the living Christ, I demand to know who you are and what your mission is. If you come from my good, take your stand on my right hand. Reveal yourself and answer truthfully, or in the name of the Christ, be gone. If the entity tries to invade the challenge or to congeal you with such words as, you know me, dear one, you know I would not harm you, so why should you challenge me? Refuse to reply or have anything to do with it. Permit no argument or excuses, but insist upon a true answer to your challenge. It is a law upon the psychic plane that no entity can withstand this challenge when the Christ force is truly invoked. It must either reveal its true nature or disappear. As the Bible truly tells us, the Lord is a consuming fire. And upon the psychic plane, the Christ force is an actual flame, which nothing that does not vibrate to its keynote of truth and purity can resist, no matter how beautiful or glorious it may seem to you. The masters of wisdom, or their messengers, also your real friends, will gladly comply with such a challenge. It is a law, and your challenge proves that you are obeying the law, for you cannot protect yourself from deception in that world of glamour and illusion until you have learned to test all things with the above challenge in one form or another. That this is no new teaching, but a well-known, although little understood Christian teaching. It should in what is practically the identical method given to us by St. John. Quote, every spirit that confesseth that Jesus Christ is come in flesh, that is, who answers the Christ challenge, is of God. And every spirit that confesseth not that Jesus Christ is come in the flesh, who can answer to the challenge, is not of God, end quote. When a spirit answers the challenge given in the name of the living Christ by obeying you, his obedience is the confession that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh and that the Spirit of Christ is in your flesh. We may also repeat here the quotation at the head of this chapter. Quote, believe not every spirit, but try the spirits whether they be of God, because many false prophets are gone into the world, end quote. Also, sorry guys, also Paul's injunction, sorry, quote, prove all things, hold fast to that which is good, end quote. If the presence of the entity which you sense near you brings a cold chill or a disagreeable feeling of any kind, you will know that the person contact is not in the mental realm, but is one of the lower realms, and the astral body is abstracting heat and vitality from you, as described on page 83. In such a case, tell the person quietly but firmly that he must not come so near you, but must stand off at distance while outside your aura and communicate with you through telepathy. Otherwise, such an entity will unconsciously throw over you its astral conditions and sap your vitality, something which you by no means desire and should permit. I've seen this too many times around too many people. And they were unknowing of, I'm cold. Oh, I have goosebumps. And being me and the nut that I am, I tried talking sense into people, and I get that, weird eye look, stared look. You're nuts. Just take note. If, on the other hand, the presence contacted beings a thrill of love and a wave of heat, instead of a chill and dread, you will know that the contact has not been made with the astral body, but one of the higher realms, or perhaps with one of the higher teachers. When the right kind of contact is made, there will be a wave of certainty and confidence, and an intuitive recognition that all is well. And until this confidence is obtained, the challenge shall be continued. When the presence has answered the challenge in a way that brings thrill of love and confidence, or by some prearranged sign or signal that is satisfactory to you, such as standing on your right hand, etc., speak to it mentally or even audibly. If you are alone, where you cannot be overheard and considered demented, and ask the question you desire. While you may not be able to hear a voice or see a form that you can identify, unless you are clairaudient or clairvoyant, the proof that the presence is really the loved one you believe it to be is the answers to your questions will seem to flash into your mind, not in terms you or some other person would naturally employ in expressing themselves, but in the expressions and with all the little particularities of speech which are characteristically of that particular loved one. Often while you are busy and thinking of other things, the picture, voice, or thought of the loved one will suddenly enter your consciousness in a particularly vivid way. When this occurs, at once speak to the one who is thus presented to you and establish communication. These tests, together with the nature of the replies themselves, will positively identify the speaker and will be most convincing. But if, in spite of your challenging, an imposter should attempt to penetrate your loved one, there will always be a feeling of doubt, if not actual distrust and even loathing, which will warn you that all is not as it should be. Such an intuitive warning is always received, provided you are not too excited or flattered by the fact of the communion to give heed to it. But once you have sincerely placed your consciousness and your aura in the keeping and under the protection of the Christ, you may trust it to warn you. Therefore, in case of such doubts or warnings, do not attempt to continue the communication at that time. And the next time is attempted, you should send out a mental call, either for a teacher of this order or for the Christ, to send you a protecting helper until you are thoroughly trained, as much to train the one desiring to communicate with you as to protect yourself. Also tell your loved ones to ask for the workers of this order to instruct and help them in whatever realm they may be. But remember that you must learn to rely upon the power of the Christ light within yourself for protection and guidance. As long as you rely upon some outside agent, no matter how high, you will remain but a babe in the kindergarten of the higher life. It's true. A special warning must be here given against trying to communicate with a suicide, for the peculiar conditions in which a suicide is compelled to dwell, described in a previous chapter, are such that he cannot communicate with you without overthrowing you the same black cloud of depression and the same insane impulse which impelled him to take his life. If such a one should be contacted, absolutely refuse to communicate with him or permit him to enter your aura. Instead, direct him to call out for the light and seek a teacher in the astral world who are especially trained in nursing such persons and who are qualified to give them all possible help and instruction. I'm iffy with this one because my birth mother ascended up to heaven and my uncle did not. My uncle was earthbound. My mother was heavenbound. But you wouldn't know that unless you went to a medium that can do those knowings and channel with telepathy, and do all of this. So I say, if you're somebody who's experienced and just watching this, you know what you're doing. For those of you who are just learning and curious, I would heed to this warning, because you really don't know what state they're in, and you don't want that overwhelming you and lowering your field. And you don't know what a suicide person picked up in their field. That's and things can be attached to them in the different planes of existence. They can grow armies and legions of nasty things. They could be controlled by demons. These things can happen. I'm not saying all suicides are that way, but anybody who's passed, try to get validation first if they are upstairs. It's easier to reach upstairs than it is if you're trying to get somebody who's passed over in a suicide. Try to see if they're healed. Yeah. I'm like iffy on this though. Another special case must also be called to your attention and guarded against. Frequently, a loved one in the astral will try to gain the attention and come in rapport with a loved one on Earth, especially when the mortal is of the opposite sex, by overshadowing some sensitive mortal of his own sex, to such an extent that for the moment, the sensitive might seem to have taken on the features of the one in the astral. Shape-shifting. In other cases, the overshadowing one may momentarily pour out through the eyes of the sensitive his love for the dear one left on Earth. In such cases, the living person will both see and feel the great wave of love coming through the overshadowed sensitive, and unless properly instructed and warned, may naturally think that the sensitive mortal through whom the departed one is manifested is himself personally in the love with, in the case, her, whereas the sensitive is either entirely unconscious of what is taking place through him, or perhaps feels but a wave of sympathy or friendly feeling. This is describing aka Ghost. Go watch that movie. When Odame is literally being jumped by Swayze. A number of cases have been called to our attention in which this has occurred, and the cause unnecessarily jealousy and heartache, if not disaster, before the real state of the case could be explained, hence this warning. It is just such a phenomena as this which have brought misunderstandings, scandals, ill repute, and disaster to many psychics, medium sensitives, and spiritual teachers, whose love, sympathy, and desire to help have placed them in such a receptive, if not actual negative state, that this form of partial or monetary obsession takes place. This is also one explanation of why so many professional psychics cause so much trouble in family relations. The great lesson to be learned from this is that all students who realize that they are sensitive and in more or less conscious touch with the astral world should take particular pains never to allow themselves to get in a negative state. The teachings of many spiritualists is that the pupils should place themselves in a negative state as possible, for their object is more easily to permit control or obsession by their astral friends. But the teachings of this order are that all should impregnate their minds and auras with a positive mental attitude, which will not permit such a partial obsession to manifest through them, and even for the moment. Truth. These instructions are not given to stimulate mere curiosity and a desire to babble in the astral conditions, for we again remind you of the terrible dangers recounted in previous chapters, to be encountered by those who are not both ready and properly trained for such experiments, but are given to help the hundreds of students who are already more or less in touch with the astral conditions, and who, since their eyes are once opened, must continue in touch with those conditions and learn to function in them. Just as a child, when once born, cannot be thrust back into the womb, but must learn to use its faculties and meet the conditions in which it finds itself. It is therefore most important, instead of merely instilling fear, that the definite, well-tried, and proved rules be given out, which will implicitly will make communication with the astral world free of danger. It is dangerous to handle instruments in any electrical laboratory or powerhouse, but those who are to become electricians must learn to work freely with all such instruments, and all these they can do without danger only by implicitly obeying the rules laid down by electrical science. The same principles apply to using the psychic instruments by which you contact the astral world. And that's really the truth. We have movies, we have games, we have a lot of things out there. When Ouija board being one of them, children don't know why they sell this in like toy stores, but people think it's a joke. But what people really don't understand is that if you're not shielding, protecting, not just yourself, but the area, the house, everybody around you, things can happen. Not all the time. But if somebody is leaving their auric field open, especially children, they are huge beacons of light. Things can enter. And they might not make themselves present at first. It might take a few weeks. Sometimes it's in the moment. Just please be careful. And I mean, anybody, doesn't matter what religion or faith you're watching this belong to. Always go inside yourself and shield yourself with whatever you're praying to on a daily basis, with whatever your outside world dictates to you in your faith or your spirituality. There's always something that can help you block and shield yourself from the crazy little things that are running around that you don't see. Yes. Chapter 19. The inspirational or spiritual realm. Quote, every mortal has his immortal counterpart, or rather his archetype in heaven. This means that the former is indisputably united to the latter in each of his incarnations and for the duration of the cycle of births. End quote. The sacred doctrine, Blavatsky. Quote, by faith, Enoch was translated that he should not see death and was not found because God took him. For before his translation, he had this testimony that he pleased God. Hebrews. Oh, you Enoch. This is the realm of the astral world, which corresponds to the spiritual world and to the spiritual soul, or Buddhic principle of man. It is therefore the realm of the ideal, that region of the astral in which there exist the spiritual prototypes of that which later embodied in the lower realms and finally manifested in a limited or more or less imperfect way on earth. It is the spiritual and perfect patterns in this realm, in the mental world, that are the source of creative inspiration. It is in this realm that the artist sees the perfect types of form and proportion, which he reveals in the wondrous play of exquisite and iridescent hues and shadings of vibrant and living color, compared with which the most vivid pigments of earth, through which they strive to impress, seem dull and dead. Hence the disappointment of the inspired artist who tries to reproduce on canvas the beauties his inner vision has glimpsed. It's really true. In this realm, also, the musician hears the ravishing melodies which thrill his soul and whose message he strives to express in the strains of his aura, rhapsody, and symphony. Here, too, the poet senses those pure, high, and divine ideals which he endeavors to express in the rhythm and imagery of his verse. From this source also are derived those high and advanced conceptions which burst into manifestation in the flashes of genius, which makes for the advancement, help, and upliftment of mankind, or whose misunderstanding or perversion works him harm or retards evolution. This is the region reached in high spiritual dreams and visions, also the region from which glimpses of past lives are gained. This realm is a subdivision of the astral in which the spiritual beings known as devas and kumaras appear when they descend to manifest in the astral world. It is in this realm also where dwell those adepts who have reached the degree of mastery, which we call Christhood. Such masters, having conquered all earth conditions, no longer need an earthly or physical instrument. In fact, would be greatly hampered by it. Yet their work for humanity is by no means over to completed, for they have not finished the redemption of their earth children, nor served their connection with them. They are above even the divine illusion of Divanchi, hence do not all themselves to enter the joys of the state of the Divanchan, heaven world, for in it they would be cut off from their touch with humanity for ages. To keep from entering Divanchan, these masters must therefore consciously guard their thoughts and not allow the spiritual mind, higher manas, to become fully united with the spiritual soul, Buddhi Atma. Such adepts consciously die to or withdraw from the physical world, leaving the physical body behind. Such masters are not astral beings in the ordinary sense of the term, nor are they merely disembodied teachers, but are spiritually advanced beings who have reached such a state of mastery over earth conditions and forces as to pass through the gate of death at will and in full consciousness. They voluntarily withdraw from earth life that they may do a higher and more widespread work for humanity in these higher realms. Although they do not always confine their work to the astral, for when an adept reaches during his lifetime the state of holiness and purity that makes him equal to the angels, then at his death, his apparitional or astral body becomes as solid and tangible as was the late body, and is transformed into the real man. The old physical body falling off like a cast-off serpent's skin, the body of the new man remains either visible or at the option of the adept disappear from view. In this case, after the physical translation of such a saint or Bodhivista, can't get that word out, his astral principles cannot be subjected to a natural dissolution like those of a common mortal. They remain in our sphere and within human attraction and reach. Such an adept remains in the astral invisible plane connected with our earth, and henceforth moves and lives in the possession of all his principles except the kama rupa body of desire, and the physical body. There is another class of most spiritual and advanced beings in this realm. These people read the secret doctrine a little too much, and now they're putting all these big names in there for me to butcher. Sorry. Nirmanakayas, or saviors. Again, if you've watched my other books, I butcher these really long names. Projection. I can't even get regular words out properly sometimes. I'm trying. That's all we could do, right? These are masters who have reached the highest stage of spiritual evolution possible, either on this or other planets, without entering nirvana, or losing all touch with the lower worlds of manifestations. These great ones voluntarily renounce the bliss of nirvana and retain the influence of terrestrial attributes, however spiritualized, clinging to the self, for the purpose of retaining their touch with humanity and becoming its savior. Under these conditions, the adept has the option of renouncing conscious nirvana and rest to work on earth for the good of mankind. This he can do in a twofold way, either as above stated, by consolidating his astral body into physical appearance. He can resume the self-same personality, or he can avail himself of an entirely new physical body. As Shankaracharya is reported to have done, and I'm sorry to butcher that name. A true Nirmanakaya body, however, although manifesting in the astral world, is not an astral or even a psychic body at all, but a spiritual body, which is born in the heart of the adept while still in the flesh, and which takes the form of the personality by first growing out through the marrow of the bones and later extending out beyond them until it permeates in the entire body of flesh and ultimately spiritualizes all its atoms. This process requires many, many incarnations, but ultimately the body thus spiritualized becomes no longer a mere physical body, nor even a purified astral body like that of the adept of the degree described above, but it is a redeemed and spiritual body in which its master can appear in any realm or in any world at will. For instance, by raising its vibrations above the octave of the physical world, he would disappear from physical sight and manifest in the astral, or by again slowing down its vibration, a process comparable to reducing the vibration of water vapor until it manifests as solid ice. He could again appear on earth in a body which to all appearances would be a physical body, but which would not be so in sober fact. This is the real meaning of the doctrine of the redemption, spiritualization of the flesh. And it is in such spirit body and by an analogous process that an avatar appears in the physical world. The ability of the divine teachers thus to appear on earth in either of the two previously mentioned bodies, or voluntarily to leave the physical world at will, the one through the gate of conscious death, the other through translation, is so well known that allusions to it are found in all scriptures and in many of the hero myths of the gods, founding nations, giving mankind an alphabet, a numerical system, teaching him the use of fire, and them withdrawing to the heights of the Olympus, Himvat, Fujimaya, or to the heaven world, as in the case may be. Teachers who have built up a Nirmanakaya body do not have to wait for death to release them. For instance, we are told that Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. The word Enoch is a generic term used to designate all who have reached the stage of mastery. in which they can withdraw from the physical world, yet live and work in the higher realms of the astral. The Greek word Enochion, from which our word Enoch is derived, means the inner eye or seer in Hebrew. With the help of the Messianic points, it means the initiator or instructor. The story of Elijah, who went up by a whirlwind in heaven in a chariot of fire, alludes to the same fact. St. Paul also alludes to it when he says, "He shall not see death." The same phenomena was again referred to when Jesus said, "He that believeth on me, though he were dead, yet shall he live, and whosoever liveth and believeth in me shall never die." And that concludes this reading, because the next time we're going to hit on chapter 20, the divine or ecstatic realm. Yay! So guys, I hope you enjoyed that. Each day that you wake up, make it a practice to bubble your energy. YouTube has, you can just type in bubbling, a whole bunch of things, and take what, again, take anything that I say with resonance within your heart. But I do on a daily basis, I wake up and I do a really quick bubble around me. And then people that I know might need the extra support, I bubble them. And then I do I call it my 12D shielding. And I do that before I go to sleep. Doesn't hurt to try and put it into your program of your everyday life. What I just read is anchoring now down to normal people, because we all, in our own way, are close to ascending, graduating. So I found this really interesting, a very enlightening read. I hope you did too. Please write in the comments if you connected with anything. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Sending each and every one of you love, light, protection, and shielding. Until next time, guys, hope you all have a wonderful weekend. It is chilly and rainy here. And a full moon's upon us in a few days. Stay safe. And until next time, guys.